This is the UTV Network. And you are with UTVI.
Hello and welcome to the $1 Million Idea. I'm Menon and you're watching our special episodes out of Chennai. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been profiling entrepreneurs and businesses which have succeeded because they were at the right place at the right time. Today we tell you about another such story about an entrepreneur who cashed in as India opened up. Chennai, an ancient city at the forefront of a new modern India. Anywhere else in the country, here too you'll see the old and the new blend into a colourful melange that can wow you or completely fox you depending on which way you look at it. No wonder then that this characteristic of the city gave birth to our next $1 Million Idea. Led by a lady who represents the old world cultural heart of the city and its new age savvy business acumen acquired ever since it began attracting the biggest manufacturing companies of the world into its suburbs. Ranjini Manyan's Global Adjustments started off by helping the expatriate families that came in with the companies that came in to settle down to the sights, sounds and smells of Chennai. But today it does a lot more. Global Adjustments has 7 offices across India, 60 staff members who take care of all the settling issues an expat will have, from finding a house to finding a school for the kids to helping with everyday chores and helping them make friends with a larger community.
With a country as vast a culture and differences to ours, a multinational company, it's so pleasing to have a group that will help bring us in as a family.
Global Adjustment has helped me in many different ways. First, at the beginning it was very easy to come here and they help us to find a house, they help us to find the shops and hospitals and other things. But also at the beginning it was very important to find out what is the culture, what is India. Finnish culture and Indian culture are very far from each other.
What's also interesting is how the company has changed its approach over time as opportunities came knocking. If at first it attracted expats coming into India, in stage 2 it began helping out the large group of Indians seeking a global career. This two-pronged strategy also allowed the company to use its strengths and its clients properly. For instance, check this magazine. Nearly as old as a company, it allows bored, out-of-work expat spouses to write and get involved in interesting activities, something they cherish when they get back home. Or this immersion center that acts as a venue for cultural shows and programs that entertain and educate. As India opens up and multinationals set shop in every nook and corner of the country, there are many others who have plunged into this expat relocation phase. There is ICANN Relocation growing at 35 to 40% annually, Writer Corporation India and other international players like Santa Fe and Crown Relocations who have branches all over Asia and the world. But as you see Ranjini Manyan work her way through her expat friends and clients, it's clear she really relishes it. As an astute businesswoman, she may have made it to the Women's Leadership Board at Harvard University, but this is what she enjoys most, the role of explaining the nuances of Indian culture. And why not? You can't understand the beauty of this country unless you have lived here or understand how the old and the new coexist so happily, or how the city that houses the factories of some of the biggest automobile manufacturers in the world also has a bullock cart flying in one of its poshest colonies. Well, welcome to Chennai, welcome to India.
Well, I met this American diplomatic spouse, Joanne Grady Husky, and at that time she was moving into India with a 2-month-old baby, and she seemed so frazzled about everything in India, right from settling into her new home to her health issues with her child. Yet the US diplomatic corps looks after its families very well. So it looked like there was a need for somebody to take care of them in a bigger, holistic fashion.
So it was also about starting out at the right time and being at the right place, because you obviously had access to a lot of these expats who were coming in socially. But on the ground, when you set it up, was it a simple idea that caught on easily, or did you have to work on it?
The idea was from day one a fabulous idea, because whenever we spoke about it and we gave our company the name of Global Adjustments, everybody instantly was attracted by it and interested in it. Whether it was easy, that's not something I can honestly say, because we were breaking into a new niche area where nobody thought or had ventured before. And nobody thought that you really needed to pay rupees and paise for a service like this. You know, to look after a family moving in for business reasons, taking them to a school or a hospital, or it was more the psychological counseling, networking within the city where they're moving, being able to quickly connect
Because
them.
one would think that if you're actually coming in with a company, the company would do all the honors. I mean, you know, they'll try and settle you in as well as they can. Why would anybody want to pay for it? I mean, that would be the logical mentality to start with.
That is the mindset, yes. But the good news is very shortly afterwards, people began to realize that an impartial external vendor can do a better job of looking after expats from different countries, especially if that vendor has on its team people that have relocated themselves.
So when did it morph from adjustment help to a cultural place where you actually, you know, look at this office, it's very full of Indian motifs and Indian iconography, if I can use that word. When did it change into this?
The same year that we started Global Adjustments, we started a magazine called At a Glance, Understanding India. And I quickly realized that there needed to be somebody that was couching this richness of Indian culture and heritage into bite-sized pieces with short attention spans that expats actually might have. They have an interest, but who's going to interpret it for them in the area?
But that was quite a savvy business idea, but I would think, of course, there's a vegetable vendor also going past us, but I would think that for anybody starting out a new business, you'd rather focus on one idea instead of having parallel ideas. Because, okay, you get into a company like this, you need to staff it, you need to get your contacts right. And then you, of course, have a magazine, you have to publish it, you have to make sure that it is well done, it has content. I mean, why would you want to do two things parallelly?
We do 5 things parallelly. We don't do 2 things parallelly. And I think this business idea's key is that it does so many different things under one umbrella. And if you look at it, that's why it's worked, because at one time, if say the relocation piece, there are less people coming in 1 month, there will be a bunch of people that will need some other service, which we do in cross-cultural training. So they would have reached here, they would have been disappointed by India, they'll need to do some retraining of themselves as well as their Indian team to understand each other. So those different verticals actually help because of the expat life cycle being the way it is.
And of course, now the business is deeper, it's wider and it's multi-layered. When we come back after the short break, we'll tell you what Global Adjustments is up to these days and where it's headed. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching The $1 Million Idea and I'm with Ranjini Manian from Global Adjustments. Ranjini, we spoke in the last segment about how you started out, but what was your turning point really?
The turning point really came when Ford Motor Company, which is one of the big automotives that entered India, brought 80 families into their project. And at that time, Ford is an American company. One would have thought that all 80 would have been American families, but actually only one was an American family. All the other 79 that came from Ford Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan, Japan, and so on. So there was already a multicultural group within the expats that came, and they had to get on with an Indian team. And we realized that our services were extremely important to help expats to do business in India.
They are international peers. I mean, you know, this whole business of helping people coming from other cultures amalgamate into your own culture is a business model that's tried and tested. Why do you think nobody did it before you, I mean, in India? Or was it just something that was before its times?
I think it might have been that it was before its time, but also because it's not like it's a definite huge money spinner. You can make much better business sense, I guess, at the time by setting up something like an IT workshop or an HR consultancy firm or finding the bodies that will actually work in those manufacturing units. So people didn't look at it because it's not a very profitable or a hugely turnover based business initiative. Maybe that's one of the reasons. The other is you need to be able to handle a lot of niggling issues. It's about managing expectation. So the expectation of another cultural person coming into our country is up here, and maybe delivery is somewhere here. Somewhere you have to be able to bridge the gap, lower his expectation and increase your delivery. So all of that are some sort of service industry based things.
When you talk about global adjustments mentally, you always talk about expats coming in, but I think more Indians need global adjustments in today's world where geographies no longer matter. If you look at your business, you said your first turning points came when Ford came in. What were the other big spurts?
In 2000, we realized that the adjustment of global adjustments was required both ways, and we did a lot more of the global Indian workshops, or taking Indian professionals to the understanding that they needed to communicate with the West. We've set up an e-learning program, for instance, so that remote people can also stay in touch and understand basic etiquette and protocol and the softer sides of doing business. So behavioral skills coming up to your business skills is a need in India. And yes, the need in numbers is much more on the Indian side, because volume in the numbers of people that need this kind of training is huge. So we did take on that part, and now our company addresses training Indians in global, to become global managers is as important as working with expats moving to India.
But it is a small company, Ranjani, and let's be frank about it. I mean, there is a world of opportunity out there, but you're in a handful of cities which are determined also by the number of foreign companies. But as you said, if the opportunity is within India, would you be looking at massive expansion, and does that require a lot of money? Are you even looking at that side?
You're absolutely right. There is a need to understand the scalability of this business. And all I can say is there is a felt need to deepen and broaden the perspective of all the businesses that we offer within the umbrella of global adjustments in all those cities. We're very keen to do that and to come to the equal depth that we do in our headquarters in Chennai. We'd love to do it in all the other cities as well. And in the residential real estate field, for example, there is a need for professionalism and helping expat families to settle down easily. And what I would love is some strategic marketing partner. I don't know that if you need money, there are banks to give you money. But what you need is more of a strategic partner, and we're certainly exploring those avenues with people now.
You've taken the business so far because of your own passion for what you do. If you want to make this a big company, a national scale company, like some of the big peers of yours are in the US, what would it require?
It would require, I think, the bandwidth and the marketing reach that is available with
it's
a
not
large...
just marketing. I mean, marketing is one end of it, Ranjani. It's also the brick and mortar, setting up base in different cities, perhaps tier 2 Mysores of the world, or a Nasik of the world, or a Ludhiana. I mean, that's the challenge really. Are you even looking at that, or are you happy doing what you have?
I certainly am not going into the Mysores and Ludhianas on my own, and that's why I'm exploring opportunities of a franchisee model, or work with, as I was beginning to say, with a company that would be able to do the marketing outreach and then have the bandwidth to deliver as well. So it should move now into a consulting mode where we've done this for 14 years. We know how to do it really well. We've understood the need. No need to reinvent it. We need to partner with somebody who has a need that is not being fulfilled in these areas that we're working in, and then go in with them. And we're exploring that with a couple of companies.
But would
now.
you be willing to give up a stake in global adjustments, share the story that you've built so far?
Absolutely. What do you own? Global adjustments will go so much further that we would be open to certainly looking at a way by which we allow it to grow from the infancy to the teen years to becoming a full-fledged. My idea is it needs to be, anyone wanting to come to do business in India should be saying, right, let's start with global adjustments, and should have the opportunity to do that. That I'm not sure I can do in my lifetime on my own in the way that I'm trying to do.
Right. We'll head into a short break now, but when we come back, we'll find out what Ranjani plans to do next and really what this journey has meant for her. Stay tuned. welcome back. You're watching The $1 Million Idea, and I'm with Ranjini Manian from Global Adjustments. Ranjini, I've got Doing Business in India for Dummies, authored by you. You've got a magazine which you've been coming out with month after month, which actually uses a lot of the expats that you have, actually helped adjust into India, an avenue to do some interesting work.
Absolutely. We've run for the last 10 years a photo competition on beautiful India. And the photographs that the expats take of India become the seed of understanding India, and then we're able to interpret it and have their voices also in our magazine. So that's been an interesting channel.
Was this whole idea of global adjustments easier because A, you're very rooted in the culture because of your background in association with the Chinmaya mission, growing up, etc. Second, that you're fairly part of the well-heeled society in Chennai. I mean, you have friends in the right places, you have access to the right people. Did that help?
Certainly, I think without the support of my really well-meaning family that gives me 100% backup, as well as friends and extended connections that are ready to back any new idea I come up with, it has been a much smoother inroad for me on explaining Indian culture than it would have been.
You've got Vishwanathan Anand coming in for a chess competition with the top CEOs of the city, the expat CEOs. You have Mani Ratnam doing movie clubs. I mean, you can't get bigger than that, right?
I didn't say Vishwanathan Anand and Mani are coming, but I'm saying they're my friends, and I hope to be able to connect them with the expat community that should know such people. But yes, it's true that having people who who are leaders in industry and in their own field in our country, and that's what made me feel that these people, their paths should cross with some of the expat CEOs or the expat families that are here in India, because they spend 3 years, 4 years here and sometimes never know more than just a few of the colleagues at work and otherwise their domestic maid or driver. And they could leave India not enriched by such people if there wasn't a forum created to interact with each other among expats as well as with people in society and business in India.
How much of it is a business and how much of it is, being a cultural ambassador? Because I don't know how you monetize that aspect of it. Yes, you monetize and you make money by helping people settle into the country, giving them tangibles. But what about these intangibles? I mean, what is there in it for global adjustment?
As a big money-making proposition, I think that's not the main part of what you can do. It is a very scalable business, and it's very, for instance, the India Immersion Center should be in every city in India. And it would be a very important part of what we promote for expats coming in. However, the monetization part of the business that I do really is in the field of real estate, relocation, and the cross-cultural training, which are the 3 verticals that we have built our pillars of the company on.
But how much of the revenue comes from Indian employees going for an international career and needing all the help they can get to actually settle in? Is that going to be the cash cow, and this going to be the nicer, more thing driven by interest rather than business?
I think the reverse of the Global Indian, which is an e-learning program we even launched last year, is extremely important. We see hundreds of Indian professionals that we need to train going, say, towards Japan or Germany or America, and helping them communicate really with the other side of the story. And that part of the business is growing and is a much bigger volumes game than the expats that are coming into India. But the idea of global adjustments is that it works on both sides. Adjustment is required both sides. And because we have all these different verticals under one umbrella, when there's less activity in one, the other one always has some activity going on. And that's what really keeps us going.
What has this journey meant for you, Ranjini? I mean, you didn't need the money. You came from a pretty good family. Your husband is doing very well from a business background. I mean, it was obviously not money that drove you to it. But looking back, what does your husband feel of the success?
My husband's my biggest supporter and also taught me everything about doing business.
You're not a very numbers person, right? I mean, you don't do too much of finance and number crunching.
I'm not very good at that. That's not my forte. But I wouldn't say we don't need money. Once you have a business, you have a responsibility. And in my company, I'm now responsible for so many employees, their growth and their future. and we contribute back into the economy as well. So I've now become very conscious of the fact that yes, this is a business, it's a business model that makes a lot of sense, and we need to be able to make the money. I'm not sure it always has to be for you personally, but certainly for the organization. I'm actually quite selfish, but I'm selfish for the company.
Right. So at the end of the day, what do your kids say when they see you building something like this? Are they inspired by you? I mean, and also does it give them an opportunity to say that, oh gosh, we can do what we want and we'll probably do it well?
I think so. I think one of the things that I've learned from even my recent involvement with the Women's Leadership Board at Harvard is that women become actually mentors to their own daughters, and that then escalates into another whole family getting educated.
Empowering the daughters.
Empowering daughters. So I find that my 16-year-old daughter is actually watching me. It doesn't matter that she's not listening to me sometimes, but she's watching me, and she'll be able to do exactly what she wants in an India that's booming way beyond it was when I began. And my son, who's a 26-year-old entrepreneur, is also, I'm not sure that they're inspired by my particular line of business. They're very proud of what I do and extremely supportive of what I do, but they're very financial and very business driven, so they might be able to venture into other areas.
So it's in the genes somewhere, right?
I hope so.
Right, but looking back, 94 was when you started out. Do you think it would have been easier for anybody to set out a business right now, or did you actually grow as the Indian economy grew? Was it easier for you?
We had two bursts in the 2000 phase when the IT burst happened. That's when we started training Indians very focusedly who were heading off to other parts of the world. And then we have had now recently in the last 2 years, again, this huge opening up of waves of people coming in for manufacturing. So the who's who of telecommunication or automotive industry, as well as the financial sector in some of our clients, have been now coming in, not just at CEO levels, but even I'm seeing the senior and mid-management expats coming in. As you rightly said, it's for having India on their CV, but also India is a much more attractive destination now.
I wish you all the very best, Ranjini. Thank you so much for being part of this series.
Thank you, Minnie.
That's a wrap on the $1 Million Idea, but we'll be back next week with another $1 Million Idea. Stay tuned.